Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. The 2026 All-Stars have been announced, and the Giants will be sending a pair of players to Philadelphia. We'll break down who made the cut, plus another ugly series versus the Rockies, roster moves, and more. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's is now the official sleep partner of the San Francisco Giants. You can save up to $1,200 on cooling mattresses at the Mancini's Sleep World 4th of July sale. Their cooling mattresses help regulate temperature, preventing overheating and keeping you comfortable until morning. Stop by or visit online to see what's currently available. All right, Alex, really ugly series in Colorado. And because of that, I'm voting we start with All-Star talk.
Works for me. I think we remain really far away from you being able to say Giants are back. So even with the schedule turning in their direction.
Yep, further away than ever, it feels like. Currently tied for the lowest number of wins in the National League. We'll get to that. Hey, 2 players in the All-Star game. How exciting.
Yeah, that's like middle of the pack, totally. that type of team. So initial reaction, I guess, not at all surprised by Arraez. It was like him, Schmidt, and Jung-Hoo Lee for a few weeks. It seemed like that was the conversation between Giants fans, and I know even internally, or not internally, when Tony would talk to the media, a lot of times those were the guys being asked about. And we kind of brought up Logan recently as somebody that, seemed like he made sense. And lo and behold, he gets it on the player ballot. Those ballots went in before he pitched at Coors Field on Friday, which is helpful. Or he didn't go on the player ballot. Actually, it was MLB. Arraez went on the player route, but Logan was an MLB choice. So I think those things are pretty much set in stone before Friday night at whatever time, 7 p.m. or whatever.
Yeah, it was funny, though, that the announcements came out right as that game was fresh in everyone's mind.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think, he's the cool thing for Logan, I think, is he's now name recognition guy. Like, you've gotten to the point where you get the benefit of the doubt a little bit. 2 years ago, Logan Webb with these current numbers, and this is not to knock him, just I think doesn't get in. But I think now Logan's known as one of the best pitchers in baseball. He was on Team USA this spring. He's been an all-star twice before. So you kind of get the benefit of the doubt over some of the other guys. And when Major League Baseball wants to put this team together, you are one of the guys they want to highlight. So I think that's cool for him. Ultimately, I guess for the Giants too, you will take that's more than most people thought for most of this first half. You thought they'd get the token one All-Star.
Yes, and I have to say, I know we had floated the Logan Webb idea here on Giants Talk, but it even caught me off guard, probably because of the proximity to the game in Colorado that was still fresh for me. But when you break it down, he has had a solid year. And like you said, the guy is just thought of as an all-star around the league. He's a Giants ace. He was at Team USA. He's just one of those dudes now. And it's cool that the Giants have one of those guys who gets that extra juice when it comes to kind of the MLB options.
Yeah, Logan was one of 4 pitchers selected by Major League Baseball to round out the National League staff. Arraez, he won the NL player vote and seemed like he won it pretty easily.
Yeah.
So he had the respect of his peers, which is also cool. Not that Logan doesn't, but I think that is my main takeaway from that is he pitched very, very well in June. He was National League Pitcher of the Month in June. Did what he had to do to get in the mix. And then now you're kind of in that group with the Paul Skeneses of the world. And I think Mizorowski every year is going to get the benefit of the doubt. And there are other guys, including his close friend Kyle Harrison, who probably look at this and go, "I think what numbers might have you." But he's now Logan Webb. He's a 3-time All-Star, and he's in that mix. He's one of the guys in Major League Baseball now. So, to your point, the Giants haven't had a lot of that recently.
No,
I think Brandon Crawford had the reputation nationally. Buster Posey did, but they've not had a lot of that in recent years. You look at their All-Stars, and it's guys who it's like they burst on the scene in the first half or had a huge first half. But ultimately, too, they will, that's a win for the Giants. And, I think the one guy I feel bad for a little bit is Casey. I just think he's been tremendous. And what he has done as a utility guy, and just to be like, okay, I'll play left field. I'll order a glove on Amazon and just go play left field for a few weeks, and we'll get to Casey's play this weekend at Denver. But I thought there was a really strong case for him just as a utility guy on that bench, but ultimately doesn't make it.
Yeah, you hope he puts together more seasons in his career where he can be part of this discussion come late June. We've seen a lot from him. He has carried the team through a lot of rough patches this year alone. So hopefully this is not a flash in the pan, and he's in the conversation again and eventually gets to tack that on to his repertoire, his accolades as a Major League Baseball player. But bummer for him, bummer for Jung-Hoo Lee. I'd been really pulling for him, thinking this was the year maybe he had figured it out enough to go be able to represent the team. Keeping an eye on that for next year. But at the end of the day, just as rough as our podcasting has been here this year, the fact that it's two players, we cannot complain.
Yeah, and just to put a footnote on this, Luis Arraez' fourth different team he has been an all-star for, which is, I believe, one away from the record.
Wow.
So he might get the record next year. He's on a pretty interesting path. And then Logan Webb, he joins a pretty small club of San Francisco Giants starters who have been in 3 straight All-Star games. It's him, Lincecum, Marichal, and Bumgarner. He tied Matt Cain, and he tied he tied Jason Schmidt in terms of overall appearances. So that we got that mailbag question, I think it was last week, about where he stands. And I think we put him kind of above Schmidt and like right below this other trio.
Yes.
With Matt Cain probably the guy he's closest to in terms of those 3. So seems like historically he fits in pretty well now when you look at the accolades.
Yes. And we still, like we said, we just need him to get that cherry on top. We need those sprinkles of some sort of no-hitter, a trophy, Cy Young. I don't know, something that kind of bumps him up to that next echelon with the Canes, the Lincecums, the Bumgarners.
Yeah.
I looked around the rosters. No prolific other former Giants stood out other than our almost wers that we tend to see at the All-Star game every year.
Aaron Judge,
Shohei Ohtani, our old friends.
Do we count Soto? I don't know if we do.
Well, Soto talk never really got off the ground.
Here's one: Otto Lopez, former Giant.
Okay,
for Giant for a week.
Count it. It's one of those Giants, our favorite kind of former Giant.
Yeah, I think the guy I'm shocked by is I think every time we've had a Kyle Harrison conversation on this podcast the last few months, which we've had a few of, it seemed like he was headed for the All-Star game. Ultimately gets left out. I would assume Kyle will be there because I think Ohtani's pitching that Sunday. So it sounds like there's already multiple guys who are ineligible.
Yeah.
Because they're pitching, and guys always back out as well. So that the easiest thing to do, and I actually thought this might be the path for Logan, was I thought he might just be a replacement as they start to fill out the pitching staff. Seems like there's always like 3 or 4 guys pretty quickly who are not going to pitch in the All-Star game. But you look at Harrison's numbers, 2.82 ERA overall, and we've joked about this, but that Las Vegas week when it was like Mexico City ball.
Oh yeah.
Like, and maybe even worse. He pitched in one of those games. He gave up 8 earned runs in one of those games in 2 1/3. And if you take that out, he has an ERA under 2. So that's not how statistics work necessarily in Major League Baseball, but I do think he's been so good and has a pretty strong case of like, hey, I pitched in this joke of a ballpark.
Yeah, you guys
ruined my season. So
you guys forced me to do this. Yeah. We're joking how Logan Webb got saddled with Coors Field. Kyle Harrison got saddled with a minor league baseball stadium. Yeah.
Did you see the Mizrowski error, by the way?
No.
Oh, yeah. There was a pretty rough call that like took 4 earned runs off his. So those 2 guys are in the same clubhouse. Kyle's probably like, what's going on here? We're a lot closer than people actually think.
Yeah. What the heck, guys?
Yeah. I hope he's an injury replacement because I think he's earned it. And also him and Logan are still close, so they could be, same clubhouse.
Yeah. Catching up, seeing how they're doing. It's it'll be cool. Luis Arraez, it's awesome that he's there. Tip of the cap to him. Logan Webb, kind of like it's expected for you, man. This is great. I'm glad you're there. So we got the All-Star game a few weeks away in Philadelphia. We'll be podcasting around that game as we get closer to that. But I think that takes us to actual games that matter. In the meantime, Alex, the Giants leave Coors Field after an ugly series in Colorado. I don't know that there's really any other type of series that goes on in Colorado, but the Giants drop the series again against the lowly Colorado Rockies, putting them at what? 37-52 against the 37-54 Rockies.
I don't think you can put that many lowlies on them when the Giants are one game ahead of them.
Alex, I'm going to put that many lowlies on the Giants as well.
Giants. I was thinking about this. We have your rule that you can't say the Giants are back until they're single-digit games under 500, which is not a high bar, but
it's not a high bar at all.
It seems like a high bar for them. My rule for myself is going to be I can no longer talk about the schedule.
Okay.
We do this a lot. We'll look at the schedule and go, if there's ever a time for the Giants to win like 8 out of 10, right now,
it's like soft coming up.
Arizona, Colorado, Toronto, Colorado. You even look at after the break, Seattle, Kansas City, like pretty soft for them right now. And we can no longer have those conversations.
Yeah.
They're right there with Colorado. And I guarantee you, Rockies talk is not having conversations about if there's ever a time for the Rockies to win 8 out of 10. I think we're done. If they ever win 8 out of 10, they can come and surprise us, or whatever run they want to go on. But we look at these road trips and go like, this should be a road trip where you can maybe make up some. You're not making up ground on the division or anything, but like
just making up ground on not looking as bad number wise
on like historical win-loss totals.
Yes, exactly.
And not like they're the worst team ever, but just where they end up at the end of this year. We can't have those conversations anymore because this was a road trip that was set up for them and did not happen.
Yeah. I think that's a fair compromise. I'm sitting here, a 5-0 streak away from being able to talk about the Giants being back. That seems absolutely insurmountable. They can't put together a series win against the Rockies. So yeah, I need to saddle you with something here as well.
Do you think they'll have a 5-game winning streak this year?
I think that
they have to, right?
Yes, they will. Absolutely, they will. It's rough that it took me so many beats to have to confidently say that, because I've been saying for a year now, they can't be this bad. They're going to get better. They got to regress to the mean.
Yeah.
Why would I stop saying it now?
It seems impossible that they haven't yet, but that's the season we're discussing. So
yeah, a season of a lot of firsts, a lot of historics, very few in a good way. So let's talk Giants at Coors. Really, I feel like there's so many negatives to fixate on. Should we, at the very least, start with some highlights? I mean, Casey Schmidt was making highlight reels all over the place, kind of showing why you keep harping on the fact that third base is his natural position.
Yeah, I think to the negative thing, like there's really no what are we going to podcast about Giants pitchers giving up runs at Coors Field? Like, everyone does it. So it's everyone
bullpen's shaky. Coors Field gets to some pitchers.
Yeah, Casey. This is I was watching when Arraez went down, and there was that night where he made that really nice feed to second base, and the first thing that popped in my head, and I think I said it here, was just like they have to do whatever they can to get him back on the dirt. Yeah, because he's turned into a really good hitter, like an all-star caliber hitter, and whatever he handled left feet. He did great. They put him out there. He handled it. He didn't look like he couldn't do it. And it does make you wonder, like, what's the utility role for him? Then you watch him when he fills in at second base for Arraez without playing second base for a month before, and you watch him fill in at third for Matt Chapman this weekend. It's just a reminder, if they would ever give this guy just one position, and especially, who knows how many more years Wash is here, but especially now when we've seen what he's been able to do with Arraez. And we saw Arraez's words when he made the All-Star team and how complimentary he continues to be. It's just like, get Casey Schmidt back on the dirt. And there's only really one way to do it this year, which is play him at second base. But it's just a shame for his career because he's one of their best players and he's playing better than most of the veterans throughout the year. And he's been the guy who's had to move around for the good of the team. And you kind of watch him and just go like, what if they just let him focus on one position, let him have a normal offseason, focus on one position. His glove was his calling card coming through the minors. And it's great that he's turned into this type of hitter and this type of threat at the plate. But I just really hope they find a spot for him. And I would imagine at least second base over the next month. We're within a month of the trade deadline now. And I'd imagine it would be second base, and that carries over into next season. But you do see the talent there. And the other thought I had was it's a really weird roster build, and we talk about this all the time, but their two most exciting young players are blocked at their best positions.
Yep.
And, they can play Casey at second. Then you see him at third and realize, like,
he's a monster.
Like, is he the second best defensive third baseman in the National League behind the guy who's ahead of him? Like, I don't know the answer there. I don't know what a full season would look like, but he was supposed to be a Gold Glove candidate if he got to the big leagues as a third baseman. Like, that was what scouts had been saying for years and telling me for years. And you see what he did there. The play he made where he touched third and made that throw, like, I think Dave Fleming's call was one of the best plays I've ever seen. Like, I don't know that I've seen that exact play before. So
it was so just effortless looking that when you saw it live, it didn't even really trigger what had happened. It was like, oh, wow, cool. He got the out. He got 2 outs. Great. And then upon the slow motion replay, you just saw how technically just perfectly executed it was.
And again, a guy who's been playing outfield for most of the last month. And I'm there pregame. Like, he's doing his work, but he's not going through Matt Chapman's drills every single day at third base. So I don't think the answer for him is going to be third unless, because Chapman's here and he has 4 years after this one. But I'd love to see what he can do with a real runway at second base. And, Bryce Eldridge, I think, continues to look pretty solid at first too. So just a very strange way this roster is currently fixed up. Like, it's these two guys who you're like, you could very easily in an alternate universe where, contracts are not, if contracts were expiring or certain guys weren't here, be like, you have these two young cornerstones at the corners, like,
build around it.
Yeah, but neither one can really play that spot.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate that this is how it's come together. They're obviously going to deal with it. However, they're able to figure out whether that involves trying to trade anyone. I don't think that's going to be likely to execute for all the variety of reasons we've dove into on this podcast over the past month, or just working around them. And we got young talent climbing the ranks, and hopefully a new dawn will be here before we know it in the next couple of years of looking at a really young, really talented roster that's not boxed in.
Yeah, I think we're, next week, you mentioned the All-Star break. I think we'll do some first half recap stuff and maybe give out some awards. And for me, I mean, Casey's a runaway winner for like almost anything positive. It's just been, it's been such an incredible story. And, for him to continue to do this and continue to hit home runs and continue to fill in defensively, like, it is the main positive of this first half.
Yeah. Other notes from Coors Field, obviously, anytime you're at Coors, the home runs are going to be part of the story. But we saw some absolutely monster shots from Giants players, including Bryce Eldridge and Rafael Devers. Ball just flying off of the bat in a series that they couldn't bring home the win, the series win, but brought home some big home runs.
Yeah, Devers had a good road trip. 3 homers at Coors, 4 on the trip. He's, heating up, picking it up. So seems to really have responded to Devers Gate, whatever you want to call it, 2 weeks ago. So he's playing good baseball. And then Eldridge, I think this is the most obvious point in the world, and I think everyone made it, but it's going to be really fun to watch him at Coors Field for his whole career, like however long he's a Giant, and gets to play there 6-7 games a year. So the number to top is 480. That's Alex Dickerson, and
legend.
I think he can do it.
Yeah. It really just brings me back to what we've talked about for the Rockies for so long. Is why aren't they the guys getting Rafael Devers? Just
make the trade.
Stack your team with these guys whose one skill is hitting bombs.
They tried with with Chris Bryant. And
oh, that's true, and that's not their fault.
You know, actually, when you see the way Jake McCarthy's playing for him, I actually think they need like 9 Jake McCarthys.
You would say that.
Yeah, he was the same way in Arizona. So, I'm still waiting for the right person to get that job and do something really interesting there.
Yeah,
so,
get real creative with the Coors build.
I think it would be much more annoying to have 9 Jake McCarthys than 9 guys like swinging for 480.
Yeah.
What kills you, of course, is those innings where you're like, did 6 guys in a row just reach base and 4 of them hit doubles and 1 hit a triple?
Yeah.
It's not the homers, they come and go.
I've heard a lot about, the Rockies, perpetual underdogs, but, good on their fans, still showing up, still getting out there, supporting their team. I have to say, for this being 4th of July weekend, and I know there were some weather concerns, including delays, but pretty empty looking yard.
Yeah, I think they did a good fireworks show.
Okay.
But, it's hit and miss there. I also can't blame, they're halfway into the season going, okay, this again. So
yeah, and I guess it's not like it was the Dodgers coming through. It was the lowly San Francisco Giants.
I would also imagine, and I've never lived there, although I've been there a whole lot, that Denver, when you live there are tremendous 4th of July options. Like,
that's true. You're going to the lake.
Yeah.
You're going hiking. You're great point.
I bet you're not staying in town.
Yeah. Speaking of, condolences to all the San Franciscans who went out for fireworks viewings.
It was most predictable thing of all time.
Fogged in, baby. Carl's there.
Most predictable thing of all time.
Yeah.
So
we love it. Any other takeaways? Do we want to talk about Logan Webb's outing? Do we want to talk about the bullpen? I mean, it's there. It's sitting there. I don't know that there's a ton to discuss, but just
I think I think those are things that happen when you go to Coors and you expect them to happen. And you expect a day like today, like, what was it? Double hit by pitch, home run. Like, that happens almost every game at Coors at some point in that game. So those if it happens at Oracle on Monday, we'll talk about it. But Coors, I just kind of shake it off. All the stuff to shake off.
It is a wild that MLB just has this ballpark that's like, hey, nonsense happens here. You're going to deal with some really weird stuff. And when you get to that part of the podcast, shake it off because there's nothing you can do about it. That is insane in Major League professional sports. And I mean, is Vegas going to be that different? Vegas is pretty high up, right?
I think Vegas is, I don't know what the ballpark itself. I mean, the Vegas AAA ballpark is a joke, but we'll see what happens with the A's. There seems to be a lot going on there. We'll see what happens with their actual ballpark. But it's similar to, like, I think we've said this here before, but like they took away Brandon Crawford's StatCast numbers from the Mexico City game because they're like, that was kind of a joke of a ballpark.
Yeah. So, well, then don't make guys play there. That was
so it's weird that a team plays in something somewhat similar year round, but they've had some successful seasons there. I do kind of like that, the whole MLB thing where you're like, all right, that's on the schedule.
Yep. Like, every ballpark's different in shape.
Your 3 homer.
That.
Yeah. And especially the guys who had big weekends, like, get your numbers because you're about to go play a bunch of night games at Oracle the next week.
Yep. And we've talked about how there will be an era. We might not look like this. It could be 20 years from now, but there will be an era where the Rockies are a force. And we'll think back on this stint of professional baseball with fond memories.
I'm curious to see what that looks like. And we have a real race now for 4th place in the National League West. So
the number one thing we're following right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk roster moves. Matt Gage went to the IL with a left elbow strain, and that brought Spencer Bivens up to the big league team, a move I've been calling for quite a while.
Yeah, I think the key part about this, and we'll see where this goes for Matt, he'll have testing, and didn't sound great. I do think, like, we went pretty hard on the Keaton Wentz stuff, and I think for good reason. And it looks like Keaton ultimately is going to be okay and is on his way back and could be back this week. But this is twice now where I think in the moment you kind of go, And I was texting people watching Gage. I'm like, what's he still doing out there?
Yeah.
Like, so this is twice now where in the moment you kind of shake your head, and this isn't, Monday morning quarterback. This is literally in the moment you can watch this with Keaton and go, why is he out there a third straight day?
Yeah.
And with Matt Gage, you kind of look and you go, this doesn't look right. And why is Matt Gage throwing 51 pitches? So he goes on the IL. I'll just, we're putting this in the file that this is twice now. And you hope he's okay. You hope he gets positive news, because it's been a hell of a journey for him to get to this point. And more than that, I just kind of put this in our file of this is twice now. And you hope it doesn't happen a third time, because you start to wonder about, like, there had to be other ways to cover some of these innings. And I just think organizationally too, you mentioned we haven't seen Bivens yet. Like, every organization should be shuffling, like Bivens and Beck. You could have shuffled them back and forth the entire first half.
Yeah.
And been like, who's fresh? Who can give you Spencer Bivens can give you 51 pitches, no problem. And that's what he's built to do. So they haven't been doing that, and I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. He's here now. We'll keep our eye on Matt Gage and the fallout of that and how he heals from that. But just another question mark, another thing that makes you think in a normal season wouldn't stand out so much, but throw it on the pile for a year like this.
We'll throw it on our list of just like, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right. We've got mailbag questions from listeners. And of course, we're previewing Giants versus Blue Jays. But before we go any further, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World offers high-quality mattresses for ultimate comfort and support, so you wake up energized and refreshed every morning. Mancini Sleep World has been helping people sleep better for over 50 years. They've built a reputation for top-quality mattresses and exceptional customer service. Stop by or visit online to see what's currently available. All right, Alex. We've got a set of mailbag questions from listeners here. As always, if you're listening to Giants Talk and would like to submit a question to myself or Alex, go ahead and find us wherever you can on social media. Send us a DM or a comment, and we'll add this to our list. We'll get to it during a relevant episode. We'll start out with Joey's question. Joey says, if Chapman has been feeling this injury since April, why did he play nearly every day since then? They always have had young players on the bench who could have benefited from more playing time, and Schmidt is a fantastic defensive third baseman. This feels like a major oversight or miscommunication within the organization. This is a really great question, and we have talked so much, like we just did, about two up-and-coming stars being boxed in, guys needing to play every day when they're not. And if we're in a situation where Chapman should have been or could have been taking days off to heal, what gives?
It is a good question. I don't put this on our list of like things that make you raise your eyebrows, because there's an old saying in baseball that the only day everyone feels great or something like that is the first day of spring training. And people would be kind of surprised. Matt Gage was pitching through some things, but people would be surprised to find just exactly what every guy is playing through. And I think there are certain guys who I kind of put in a different bucket as well. I mean, Brandon Crawford played through so many different types of injuries and almost never went on the injured list, and was constantly getting treatment, was constantly, thinking about his shoulder or his elbow or his back or his hamstring or his quad, whatever. But he wanted to be out there, and he felt the team was better with him out there. And I think Matt Chapman has always reminded me quite a bit of Crawford, just covering him, and he wants to play. And I know it's been a down season for him, but like, he's not the worst hitter in baseball. Like, he's been basically a league average hitter and has been a very good defensive third baseman. So I think there's that part of it. Like, he wants to play and he doesn't feel like too compromised. And the other thing is, this seemed like a bit of a weird injury, that it wasn't like a straight, like, hey, your hamstring hurts, shut it down for 10 days, or, you got a concussion, or you have, like last year when he had the hand thing where it's just like, no, you can't play. It seemed like this is one that he could manage quite a bit. And then one play, it just won out, and he could manage it no longer. But I think, we could tell that he wasn't playing his best baseball, but he never looked hurt.
Yeah.
And I think people, when they talked about him, you talk about some of the pitches he swings through, and you assume it's because of age and just a guy who's getting up there and a little bit older and deeper into his career. So this one is pretty standard. I remember writing a story one year when Crawford made the All-Star team late in his career, and talking to Dave Gresham, and literally listed like almost every body part that he had worked on at some point that season.
It's like that sketch of the body and everything.
Yeah, like what doesn't hurt. There were springs where he wouldn't throw for long stretches to kind of preserve his elbow. So this one I think is pretty standard. I think there's a lot of guys around there who, Devers, I don't think the hamstring thing's ever gone away for him, and he wants to be out there. So this is pretty standard. And I get from the outside, you look and say you have Casey there, but it's just kind of not how these guys are wired.
Yeah. Is this at all a situation where, if this were anyone else, but it is Matt Chapman, clubhouse leader, longtime major league veteran, he also gets a little bit more pull here. Yeah. If he says, I'm good to play, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think Chapman, Adames, and Devers are three guys who, if they want to play, they're out there. And I think some of them have talked their way in the lineup at points this year. So that's just kind of the way it is. Like those guys want to be out there 162.
Yeah. Next question is from Mark. Mark says, as you have pointed out on several occasions, Tony Vitello's decision-making has been questionable at times this season. Vitello has never managed in the big leagues, and some mistakes have to be expected as he navigates the complexities of a new, more challenging position. Have the Giants implemented any sort of process to help him learn from mistakes, grow in the job, and become a better, more successful manager? He has 2 former major league managers on his coaching staff and presumably has access to Bruce Bochy, Dusty Baker, and Ron Wotus. This brain trust could help Vitello improve by reviewing in-game decisions and raising appropriate questions when mistakes happen. Does this on-the-job feedback or training occur, or are the Giants just letting Vitello sink or swim on his own? If not, should the Giants be faulted for failing to implement a process for input to help make Vitello become successful at the big league level?
It's a good question. It's an important question, I think, as we think about where this is all headed for Tony. He does, from what I've gathered, he's mentioned a couple times like things that he specifically has called Bochy on. I know when Dusty's around, sometimes you see them talking in the dugout. He was the one who asked Ron Wotus to be in the dugout with him. And it was kind of, it was right before the season, and he's like, I want you there. So he does have guys he can listen to at the same time. I don't think he's calling these guys too often, whether he just doesn't want to bug them or whether it's just not realistic. Like, you're not going to call Bruce Bochy the next morning and be like, let's go through the 7th through 9th innings last night. Okay.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, like Bruce Bochy's not interested probably in 162 post-game meetings.
Yeah, I think he said one time a few weeks ago, it was like there's one very specific thing I needed to call Boch about. And so he does have those guys around him, but I also think he's done this for a long time and he wants to manage a certain way. And I think we've seen there's definitely a style that he manages with and that he goes about his day with. I also think he's someone who's pretty quick to move on from moments where we would maybe sit there and from the outside go like, hey, you got to call Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker and sit with Ron Wotus and Ron Washington and say, what do you do about this Devers thing? And he just goes, we talked on the plane, we're over it.
Yeah.
Like, I love that guy. Drops the town reference and he moves on. So I don't think anyone's asking him to sink or swim. I do think my sense is he is doing this largely his way, which is, look, they brought him in here to do things his way. So
that's exactly it for me. They hired him to do his job. It's not like they picked a guy off the street who they were like, we have to mold him to be super manager. They said, we like this guy. We trust him. We think he can make the tough decisions. We think he has the baseball knowledge to get it done. Now let's give him the reins. He has these options. He's mentioned, as you said, that he uses these options, but I don't think it's fair to expect him or the cadre around him in Dusty, Boch, Wotus to pick up the slack there and essentially tutor him on being a successful manager.
Yeah, I think they brought him in here to do it to Tony Vitello way.
Exactly.
And, we will, and we have, we will grade him appropriately. We'll grade him on that. But yeah, I think he wants to do things his way.
Yeah.
And these guys are around. He talks to them sometimes. I don't think it's that often. And it wasn't necessarily why, it's really easy. And I think we even make the connection here. Like, it's really easy to go like, oh, look at all the special assistants around him. Look at all the talent around him. Look at the Hall of Fame managers around him. But in practice, it's actually not like what happened. Yeah, I'll go back and it's not what's happening, that he's calling guys every morning and going, what do you think of my move in the 8th inning last night?
Exactly.
So,
Casey asks, hoping you guys should shed some light on how a likely work stoppage next year will impact this year's trade deadline. Do you expect teams to be more aggressive as a result? And does this benefit the Giants? This is pretty interesting. We've talked a lot about the 2027 very likely work stoppage due to new bargaining agreement. And this is the final trade deadline before that. And we don't know what the future of baseball contracts, bonuses, deferrals, all kinds of real nitty gritty things like that are going to be after this. And this is your last chance to move guys before that.
Yeah, this is a question that everyone around the league is asking. And, I've seen a lot on like Dodgers Twitter of people saying like, do whatever it takes to go get Skubal, because you don't know what the next bargaining agreement's going to look like, and you don't know what that's going to mean for a team like the Dodgers. It's probably going to hinder them a little bit. So go and I've seen this from Dodgers fans that kind of, sorry to agree with them, like, yeah, go and try to get your third straight, because they might bring the hammer down on you. And you might not be able to do this again. So we'll see if they do that or if they go about it their own way. I think the first thing that pops into my head is I would think some of these older teams, I think specifically of like the Phillies, who've kind of been in win now mode for a while and have not like lived up to expectations. And some of those guys, Harper, Schwarber, Turner, like that's an older team. Their rotation's older as well. Like Zach Wheeler's been around a long time. He was traded by the Giants 15 years ago. So I would think those teams would be a little bit aggressive, just knowing that there's going to be uncertainty next year. And also, if you're under the assumption it's going to be a shortened season, that also is a bit of a wild card in itself. That, like, remember the Phillies got off to a horrible start this year. So you do that in a season that, let's say, it's been shortened to 132 games. You don't have as much, and they made it up in like a month, but generally you don't have a chance to do that. So I think that would play into it. From a Giants perspective, they'd love to take advantage. What they really need to do most likely is they have the knowledge that we do not have. And by they, I mean like the Johnsons and Buster and Larry Bear, and specifically those people who have a better sense of where this is all going and what this is going to look like when the dust settles. And if they feel like this is their last chance to trade some of these guys because it'll be more difficult afterwards, then that plays into it. I think we've gotten multiple questions from this about like, if there's a floor, do you have an easier opportunity to trade at Devers? If they feel like that's coming, that probably plays into it as well. Of like, hey, you don't need to be as, maybe you don't have to take on as much money this year because it'll be easier when teams have to hit a floor. So there's a lot that goes into it. I would guess it's going to be pretty close to business as usual, just because it's so hard to predict what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And I think teams are going to go for it like they usually do.
Yeah, you can't let this intervene too much. And I think you said it best when it's like, yes, these conversations are happening, but no, we unfortunately aren't privy to what the likely impact is yet. But I'm sure the powers that be with their inside knowledge are making moves accordingly.
Yeah. I'm really curious, and we'll talk about this after it happens. Like, obviously we'll break down all the Giants stuff, but I am really curious to see what the Dodgers do. And, you put like the Padres in that boat of an older team as well. So I'm curious to see what other teams do, because it will give you a little bit of a hint of what they think is going to happen in December.
I mean, my Dodgers fan friends are already talking as if Skubal is wearing the blue and white.
Yeah. I swear they're making guys up who end up on top 100 lists. We're going to trade 3 of them.
Yeah, it's insane. But hey,
Yep.
we wish it could be us.
Yeah.
Next question is from Sandra. Sandra asks, I'm curious about Tony Vitello's thought process behind the constantly changing batting order.
It's the same guys for the most
That's
part.
true.
So very much so the same guys.
Does that almost make it more of a question, though?
No, I think this is, for me, this is one of those things that, and I always laugh when I see some of the lineup responses every day when it's posted. Like, I think it's one of the most overrated things that we talk about. And, occasionally there's a thing where like Jung Hoo being fifth as opposed to top three might cost him an at bat when he's red hot, things like that. But generally, I think it's, gets discussed more than it's probably worth. In this specific case, I think when you're talking about Tony and you're talking about the thought process, we're still learning him, right? But the one thing that stands out is he does really seem to be day to day. I don't mean day to day as like goes about this day to day, but I think his focus is really day to day in trying to win that day's game. And I don't know if it would be this way anyway, but especially with where they're at, like we've seen him like desperately trying to turn this around at times. And so I do think that sometimes where you see like, hey, this guy looked good for the last 4 days. Let's see if we can ride this for the next 4 days, as opposed to like, this guy's been down here and let's stick him there. So I think that's a lot of the moving guys around is just trying to really ride who's hot.
Yeah.
We've certainly seen that on the pitching side. So that would be my main thing with Tony is I don't think he's really thinking about like 4 days from now as much. And that's not a criticism. I think that's how, when you see the lineup moves, I think that's a lot of that.
I would be so fascinated to be hearing the daily breakdown of what the thoughts are there. So-and-so's hot. So-and-so looked really good in the cage. So-and-so pairs up nicely with the pitcher. Because on surface level, to fans like Sandra or even myself sometimes, it does feel like names out of a hat.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing all the, when we actually ask the questions in the afternoon, there is a lot of like, we like this matchup, this guy splits, this and that. I haven't really, my quibble with him in terms of lineup hasn't really been, there aren't a lot of days where I look at it and look into the splits and I kind of go like, that doesn't make sense. I think for me, my main thing has just been like, I think he hasn't utilized his bench enough. But, and there was a stretch where like Barracoto didn't play for 2 weeks and it's like, well, what are you here for? So, and I think like Jonah Cox is going through that now. So that would be mine, but that's not like lineup construction necessarily, like 1 through 9.
Yeah. All right, let's jump ahead to some draft talk with how much trade discussions we've had. We haven't touched on the draft much. Joshua says, the draft is coming up. Any chance you could go in depth on possible Giants picks and how they're going to use that additional first-round pick they received with the Bailey trade? Giants are in that kind of area, it feels like, where they're going to get with their first pick whichever of those top dogs is still available.
Yeah.
They have the fourth pick. There's a group of very, very, very talented young ball players. And I've seen so many mock drafts tying them to different guys that I'm very curious to hear what your take is.
Yeah. I mean, we talked at the beginning of the year, and I think in the offseason as well, when they moved up to 4, about, I think we joked about like doing more draft stuff. And that the reality is with the Major League Baseball draft, it's hard to do too much beforehand because it's such a crapshoot. So much of it is tied to like pool money and how you want to move that around and what you want to do. I think what's really interesting about the draft, and this will happen in the Giants case, is how you move that money around and like, what do you do with the Bailey pick, which is worth like $3.27 million. And from what I've heard, and again, it's such like a niche thing. Like you hear names and it's also like, it's like, that's a high school guy. Like this isn't like that guy played quarterback at Alabama. Like he's being discussed everywhere, is in mock drafts everywhere. So from what I've heard, I think they're doing a lot of work to try to take advantage of that 29th pick. And I think there's some specific guys, and I'm curious to see if it'll end up this way, but there's specific guys that I think they've targeted pretty hard and are hoping that they're there and they can take advantage, or, even I think it's 55, their next pick after that. So, and do the Kyle Harrison thing all over again, which worked out very well for him. As far as number 4, they mostly have been connected to Lombard, who's a high school shortstop. Jacob Lombard, he's from Go Over Prep in Miami. That's the one you've seen over and over again. I don't know what to make of that because this is not a front office that leaks. So it's interesting to me that they keep being connected to the same guy.
Yeah.
Your point, there's a pretty good structure at the top, and it does seem like there's kind of a big three.
Which is a bummer that the Giants have the fourth when there is a very tight three. But yeah, you were going to start going down the list of them.
Well, it's Rock, it's Lackey, and it's Grady Emerson, who's also a high school shortstop. And the other thing about the baseball draft is we just saw an NBA draft where everyone's like, we know who the top four are going to be. We know especially who the top three are going to be. We pretty much know who's going to go one. We think we know who's going to go, like this is different. Like I think whatever happens with Rock at one is going to shake up that whole top four. And I still believe the Giants are hanging around the backboard and waiting and seeing if he drops. And I think there's a greater chance than maybe has been discussed of him dropping. Lackey would make a ton of sense. If he drops to 4, I think that's automatic. And then after that, it's a bunch of high school shortstop. Emerson is in the mix for number 1 as well. So it's a weird thing because you can't really predict. And I know even talking to Giants people, like it's really hard to even figure out what other baseball front offices are thinking, where in other sports, you look at it and go, like, they're taking a quarterback number 1 and they're taking a quarterback number 2. And, the team number 3 needs a wide receiver or needs defensive help or whatever. This is best player available in every spot near the top of the draft. And it's a matter of who that specific team thinks is the best player.
I know this means absolutely nothing to the Giants, but to me as a fan, the fact that in the top 4 as listed, there are 2 kids who have said they grew up Giants fans, and neither of them are who we said they're likely to pick in Lombard. Bums me out. Rock, Giants fan, and then Jackson Flora out of UC Santa Barbara, Giants fan. Come on. Give me one of them.
We don't even pretend to be unbiased here with, 2 UCSB guys.
Jackson Flora, UC Santa Barbara. Let's go Gauchos.
And I don't know if you saw him with Dallas Braden. Like he's
one of the funniest clips I've seen on social media all week.
He's basically, hello guys, I'm right here.
What's up?
And oh, by the way, I would right away be your top pitching prospect and your best hope to be Logan Webb's co-ace sometime in his prime. So I've been surprised, we'll see where this goes. And again, the Giants as a front office are very good about not letting stuff get out. I'm very curious on Saturday and then in the aftermath when maybe they're a little bit more forthcoming to hear how they feel or felt about Flora. Because on paper, and not just because he's a Gaucho, just on paper, he seems to check a lot of boxes.
Every box.
And you don't see him at 4 in a lot of mock drafts.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be keeping our eye on that. Giants Talk here has said their piece on who they think. But baseball draft's a crapshoot. That runway through the minor leagues is so long. You're not filling any specific needs with a player you're drafting. So like you said, Alex, best player available, and every team's evaluating that a little bit differently in that top 4.
Yeah, I think their next 2 picks are actually, to me, almost 4 is going to be franchise altering, but the next 2 picks are almost as important in what they're able to do. And they have some ideas of what they can do, but it's also like even at like 29, you're waiting on a lot of teams there. So we will have a full breakdown on Monday after they make their pick. But again, that's Saturday, and we'll see where they go.
All right, Alex, I have 2 more mailbag questions before we get to Giants Blue Jays. Cynthia says, chances of playoffs are pretty much 0, right? So at this point, who should Giants fans be rooting for other than this team? We've talked a lot. I think it was a lot easier when I was young and you had AL and NL with very little overlap. Interleague wasn't as big. So you had your AL team as well. Now it's a little different. You see everyone. But I know a lot of people do have their backup team, their non-Giants team. Maybe that's a team with a lot of former Giants players on it. Maybe it's just a really likable team. Maybe it's a team that's best equipped to beat the Dodgers. But what do you think? What's your pitch for who Giants fans should be rooting for to make the playoffs, to succeed in the playoffs, etc.?
I'm going to do the beat writer thing and say we root for quick games and good stories. So you are the fan here. You get to choose it. You get to choose a team.
I think it's the Braves and the Blue Jays.
Giants East.
Yeah, Giants East, just because of those faces. You go over there, you saw Mike Yastrzemski, you saw everyone that just the smiles, the standing ovations they got here at Oracle Park. And then the Blue Jays just putting up such a grudge match in the World Series last year, having the Dodgers on the ropes and fumbling it. I would love to see them get another shot at that.
Yeah, I always think of this in terms of like you're sitting there on a Tuesday in October and you're watching a random like playoff game that started at noon on the West Coast, and you're like, that guy. Yeah. So
Mauricio Dubon.
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. All right. One more question from Travis. Travis says, checking in from overseas. I know Dodgers hats have become commonplace all around the world, but where's the furthest place away you've spotted a Giants hat in the wild? This is a fun one. I'm always looking out for this. I don't know if you do this when you watch TV shows or documentaries, but I'm always looking for Giants hats in the crowd, or like photos of when the new Pope was elected. There was like a Giants jersey in the audience and some of the AP photos. I'm always keeping an eye out for that kind of thing.
I have not seen a lot of that other than Caught Stealing, which was a Giants movie.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
It doesn't count. The furthest I think I've been personally is like, I don't know, distance-wise, probably Thailand. Okay. I don't remember. I did that like 14 years ago, so I don't specifically remember. But I know our last real vacation, me and my wife, was Italy, and I saw multiple Giants hats there. So
there we go.
That's my answer. I met a Giants Talk listener in Italy. So he was just like, hey, listen to the pod. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's great.
We're in Rome. So that's my answer to that.
Double points for that. Yeah, I mean, Travis is right. Dodgers hats, whether it's Italy or Thailand, are everywhere. I didn't see any Giants hats in Chiang Mai when I was in Thailand last. I didn't see any in Italy. I did see a Giants hat in Vietnam on a local, which got me pretty hyped. But they are out there. And it, as disheartening as it is to see the number of Dodgers hats everywhere, when I see someone wearing a Giants hat, I assume it's more because they're a fan than they're just wearing it as a fashion statement.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Also, Travis checking in from overseas. As we talk about Giants hats around the world, shout out to all our listeners who are from overseas. I know one listener, Kyle in particular, is getting married in Sweden coming up. So shout out Kyle in Sweden. UCSB Gaucho.
All right.
Let's talk Giants versus Blue Jays. As I just called them out as one of my favorite teams to keep an eye on. Now we're going straight into heading against them head to head. Alex, who do we have pitching in this matchup?
For Cole's Blue Jays, it'll be Kevin Gausman, TBA, and Dylan Cease. And for the Giants, it's Landon Roop, Trevor McDonald, and Logan Webb. The Blue Jays are 42 and 48. They're doing the World Series hangover thing, which we've seen is real here. Mm-hmm. They're also in the American League, so they're only 3 games out of a wild card.
Love to see it.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. And they are a team with a handful of old friends of ours. Maybe not the number that the Braves have, but if you were to put together a list of guys I wish were still Giants, I think the top 2 are on this Blue Jays team.
It might be the top 3, actually, but it is definitely top 2. Kevin Gausman, 4.19 ERA, 3.80 FIP. This is year 5 of that 5-year deal that he signed when the Giants lowballed him, and he wanted to come back and went and found his money in Toronto. And we have for years talked about him as the one that got away. And this, when you add it up, it's fascinating that it's year 5 because he has been healthy the entire time. He's made 143 starts with a 3.57 ERA and 3.22 FIP, and has been exactly what you would want from a 5-year, $110 million deal. And just, it looked, in the moment, we thought it was a bad decision, and you look back on it and just go like, he would have been exactly what they needed. So
even beyond the numbers, just checked all the boxes in terms of the fans loved him. He embraced the city of San Francisco. Logan Webb and him hit it off and were so tight. I wish so much Kevin Gausman was on year 5 here instead of year 5 there.
And when we talk about these contracts and the fact that Giants don't like him, I think we always give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because generally these deals, like a guy will miss a year or miss, 18 starts in one of the years. Gausman's made it all the way through, basically. So, maybe something happens this year, but he has given them everything they thought they were getting and more. Yeah. And they've been to the postseason 3 times with him.
Gosh. And then right behind him on the list, Tyler Rogers.
Speaking of whoops, like, here we go again. Tyler Rogers, 3-year, $37 million deal in the offseason. When you look at where the Giants ended up with certain guys, would not have been too hard to get to $37 million, you would think. And where would this bullpen be with him pitching the 8th inning every night? In pretty good shape. So, and he's doing it again. 1.77 ERA, up near the league lead in appearances. He has 6 more appearances than any current Giants reliever. So he is taking over the mantle from Gausman as Blue Jay, who is guy that got away.
Blue Jay that got away. Now, obviously, the trade that happened got the Giants some pieces that they actively use. Drew Gilbert, we've seen a ton of. Blake Tidwell still shows promise. But he was right there to sign after that trade had happened and the offseason was there. We just had a mailbag question recently about why don't trades and then re-signs happen more often, because it seems like the best of both worlds. That was the one to do it for.
And again, not Monday morning quarterback. Everyone externally at the time was like, this feels like it makes a ton of sense.
Yep.
And the Giants went the way they did.
Yes, so that they did. They did. All right. And you said potentially top 3.
Yeah. When people see Spencer Miles this series, a fair amount, I think, will be made of this. He was a Giants draft pick, a 4th round pick a few years ago, 2022, I believe.
Okay.
He only pitched 14 2/3 innings for them in the minors. He was hurt quite a bit, and then he kind of popped up in the Arizona Fall League last year. Blue Jays took him in the Rule 5 draft. Giants did not protect him, and he has been very good. 2.83 ERA, sticking in their bullpen. Looks like exactly the type of arm the Giants need. This is not as cut and dry as the other ones, I think.
Yeah.
And this, it's generally, I'd be quick to hammer a bad Rule 5 decision, except he basically didn't pitch after getting drafted by them. So, it's not exactly the same as like the Reggie Crawford situation, because Reggie was actively coming back from an injury during the Rule 5 draft, but somewhat similar in terms of guys who have not pitched in the minors just because of injuries. And, Reggie's still here. Like, nobody was going to take the flyer there. Good for the Blue Jays. They figured it out. I think it's looks bad for the Giants currently. I think it's a good lesson. You have to be careful with pitchers in the Rule 5, especially guys whose velocity pop up. But they also have done okay in that draft because they got Suzak out of it, and he's been, overall, I think a pretty positive move there.
All right. Well, we'll be keeping our eyes on Miles, Rogers, and Gausman during this Giants Blue Jays series. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to Giants Talk wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and give us a glowing review if you're a fan. No need to review if you're not. Buy Alex's book. And we've got a show coming out about the greatest home run hitter of all time, Barry Bonds.
Not you and I personally, but NBC Sports Bay Area. I think it's Tuesday. Yeah. Tuesday at 5:30, there's a look back at him hitting 73 homers, which obviously this year's an anniversary of. So set your DVRs.